Hello, everybody. How you doing tonight? Great night. Got a great guest, one of our team members, as we're putting these podcasts together to really inform everybody out there. But this is another series that we're putting together from the Real Game Unplugged. And today I have Chris Libert with me. Me and Chris go way back. Chris's background is, he comes from the Northern Virginia hotbed of soccer. He played Division I college in East Carolina. His dad was a collegiate coach for years, so he has it in his blood. His trajectory moved into, doing Olympic development programs when it meant something, when it was a little bit different, before you have this chaos in the pay-to-play system and super clubs. But me and Chris's relationship really started, in the USL days, back in the days when, people understand when the NASL folded and there was a big vacuum, what were the pro players going to do? And we recreated this stuff, with Francisco Marcos and the people that we had, the owners, and we really put professional soccer on the map that kind of built the pathway for MLS to go. We kind of, USL and the A-League merged and then it went on to the next step. And we kind of saw how how professional soccer evolved where we're at today, and it's $1 billion industry. So, so we're going to talk a lot, and it's coffee talk. And, and I want Chris to talk about things in his past and tell his stories. And so welcome, Chris. How you doing, brother?
Oh, doing great, man. I mean, so excited to be a part of this and what we're doing here with the programs we're setting up. So thanks for having me, and look forward to our conversation here.
Yeah. So tell me, so you came out of Northern Virginia, you played youth ball, you played high school ball, was a hotbed in soccer. How's it changed today compared to when you played? What's your thoughts?
First of all, it's same magnitude of problems, just at a different level, but it's the same stuff that's been going on for, I won't date myself in time, but back in the 80s and 90s, where you had small town clubs and travel soccer, and it really, the parents thought that they knew everything, and coaches thought they knew everything, and the next town over or the next club or the next thing was the next best thing, and people would jump ship in a heartbeat to chase higher level of, okay, well, this coach was this, or this player, these group of players are going here, and again, it's sort of the same thing that's happening 40 some years later.
It's just labeled differently and costs more.
Say again?
It's labeled differently and it costs more.
Same problems, same route.
Because I know when you were growing up, you could go on the Beltway and you could find unbelievable games with national level talent, diplomatic kids. You had so many opportunities where kids are flying for the same competition in California or playing a team that they're only an hour away from.
Yeah, and it was, you didn't have to go that far to really get high level of soccer, but then not only within your own state, but I was blessed to be in an area that you cross over state lines, certainly into Maryland.
And
then up into Delaware, and then down into, to get in a tournament, you're going down to North Carolina, and really amongst those states that I just mentioned was really the hotbed of
the Mid-Atlantic,
the Atlantic, and those were your better college players, the teams, then of course it translated into, teams like the UVAs of the early 90s, and then the pro teams of, really, let's be honest, DC United really being one of the better teams and better programs, all coming from that area that you and I were from, and really how I was able to meet you 2 states away. But you talk about the level of the players and the coaches, and really left over from the old NASL days, and a good mixing bowl. I think a true mixing bowl of all countries and all talents right there in the DC melting pot of soccer.
Yep, exactly. So when we talk about our past and we talk about all the things that we've done, right? Let's talk about me and you. Let's talk about how we came together, and how we kind of navigated our way through the young professional leagues when we was, first starting up. But we had the pre-MLS players. We had we had some good players and players that came over from overseas and Latin players as well. Let's talk about, how did you get involved in the USL when you started?
Well, it was just being in an area that honestly I was after playing college ball at East Carolina in the Colonial Athletic Association. It was unbelievable soccer. Division I, you had George Mason, James Madison, William and Mary, Old Dominion, Richmond, Virginia Commonwealth coming in there at the end, and of course, East Carolina and UNC Wilmington. American was in that conference, and outside of the ACC, and then some, maybe a little bit of the Midwest, and out west was probably the third, maybe fourth, top to bottom strongest conference, in the country. And that kind of trickled over to the coast. And again, when I mentioned the Virginia, the Maryland, the Delaware area, that's where I had found myself after college, after graduate school, getting into sports administration. I knew I wanted to be in the professional side of the game, and ended up being in a small market where they were attempting to put a team through the United Soccer Leagues, and was able to make that team as a player, but also work with the team during the week. Good old fashioned trying to do ticket sales, sponsorships, everything else. I was blessed to be able to practice at night and then play against you when you were with the Delaware Wizards. I was at the Eastern Shore of Maryland, the Eastern Shore Sharks, in the old D3 Pro League, and got to play against you. You were coaching. You were the owner of that team, a great franchise, and our paths started then.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. And the good thing about it is that league back then, and this was 98 when I first had met you and played against you, and that was only the second year of the MLS. And what people don't realize was, even though you had Major League Soccer, your embassy leagues, your adult amateur soccer leagues, and these higher level of USL, back then it was the USISL, same league, same under Francisco Marcos, but it was the USISL. The neighborhood teams, the men's leagues, the adult teams, the amateur teams, players were making more money. Oh yeah, not in all situations, but players were making more money than the lowest basic salary of the MLS.
Right. Oh yeah.
So the level of the MLS was good, but it was not the best that it could, because it was so spread out amongst so many different leagues, and some of the stuff weren't even recognized professional leagues. They were glorified bar leagues.
Right. And I'm glad where MLS is today, but even in the early days, they couldn't pay full-time salaries. So guys couldn't leave the towns they were in to go through the gauntlet of a major league season, until they upped the ante. So this thing had a coffee drip itself over time, right? And in any sport, when you look at the history of sports, there's teams that fall out. In the NFL, you see teams that fell out in the early history days of marketplaces, ownerships, how's it done? But the early days that I think built the platform for Major League Soccer, because we had draft picks come out of our teams and they go to an MLS. They scraped the top players because we were playing against them in our league play, right? We were playing against these guys. We had, with Delaware, we played against Peter Vermees and, Benny Olson. And, we played with all these guys before they got to that point, right? This was the only place they could actually play and develop in the summer to get Savarisis. Do you know what I'm saying? Players and guys that are coaching today, right? They cut their teeth in this league, right? And because we had no idea what direction we were going in. And, unfortunately for me, the teams that are getting into it now, because there's more layers, right? the people that get involved in the ownership of these clubs are not premised mentally, financially, and they understand what they're getting into. And that's when some of these franchises or these memberships, whatever they have, where they fade away, which is sad because I want to see every team actually succeed. But there's no franchise training. There's nobody that can really help them out. I've been able to bring in teams over the years. When we got in early with the Wizards, we were only 8 teams. Long Island came and watched us play. Next year, the Rough Riders and the Bays got involved. All of the things, we all kind of came together and we helped each other out in the other cities to make sure that we had good travel partners that was, for the weekends, we'd have to go one game and then 6 hours down the road for the second game. So I think we did a good job, and you're never going to stop progress of where it's going. Right. And I think where we're at today is in a good place. I think where MLS and USL are now, where they're going to almost compete at a Division I level in 2028, there's going to be separation because I still think you have billionaires competing against millionaires, right? So it's going to be interesting how that goes because it's going to come down to facilities and it's going to come down to payroll. And, so I think the thing is, I hope it works. I think they have 2 different wheelhouses and genres they're going to go in. It's going to be a better opportunity for a lot of players for sure. But that is something for us to watch and see. MLS is eating up the youth market in a lot of ways. ECNL is working, to compete with them that. And then you have a lot of leagues that are underneath it. And, pay to play soccer, kids that are going to be getting to 10th by the end of their 10th grade year now, they're spending about $130,000 from their travel, their league fee. Clubs are $4,000 and $5,000. That's a deposit. That's not travel. That's not the other stuff. We're not going to stop that. We're not going to stop where you have to pay in hotels because the managing company has a deal with the tournament company and the club, and everybody gets kickbacks, which Congress now is starting to investigate that system now. So there's going to be some things coming down that's going to change. But what was your biggest challenge you had? Now you're at Eastern Shore, right? I moved to the Carolina Dynamo. All of a sudden, we're back in the same division. We're having battles. We're having wars. We have great players, unbelievable rivalry, really good ownership. We had tremendous ownership. What were your biggest challenges you had in Wilmington when you transitioned down from the Eastern Shore? Because I know you went to Cocoa Expo first. You went to the Expo, right?
Yeah, I had a year. So I was in Ocean City, Maryland with the Eastern Shore Sharks, and then went down to a pretty successful program at that time, was in the PDL, and I was playing a little bit, but again, I was getting more on the management side. I was the general manager of that team. And again, for our folks that don't quite know the structure, again, definitions or league names changed. The PDL technically was the 3rd division of the minor league. So yeah. I always would try to put things in the comparison of minor league baseball. You had Major League, you had MLS. Yeah. You had the at that time was the A League, which was Triple A ball. Yeah. You had the D3 Pro League, which was Double A, and then you had the Premier Development League, the PDL, which was a mix between college athletes that could play. Same thing as USL 2 these days, that college players could play and not lose their college eligibility. But they honestly were mixed in with a bunch of and some of the more successful teams, as some of the NPSL and minor league teams now, even the USL 2 is having older players, an amateur player that isn't just your college player that's coming in for 2 months and then being gone. So it was actually a real good level of single A professional ball, even though college players could play.
And what was great is those a lot of those guys their careers were done, but they had a lot of juice left in them. But they gave a lot to the locker room. They got it. They've already been through it. So some of the young players that thought they were good, you got to have that leadership in the locker room. You have that leadership when you're traveling. You got to have that leadership when it's pre-activation for warm-ups and practice and for game. You have to have that leadership. So if you always could grab somebody that was done playing pro, or they had an unbelievable college career, but they were not going to go into professional soccer. They're going to their real profession, but wanted to still get after it. Those were great players that I had.
Well, and they're players that, again, if they're living in your community, the biggest thing is, and I know this will be a whole nother show or another podcast, is in your marketability of your product, and being in your community, seeing that favorite player on your field that's on the field in July, but being able to see him at a Christmas sale for tickets going into the next season. Yeah. That's huge. And having a player 3, 4, 5, and 6 years over and over again to really become your hometown hero and build that nucleus. So you asked me about, the success of the difference between an Eastern Shore Sharks where you had an influx, and that was a younger team. It was only around for 2 years, but you had different players every week because they were affiliated with, in some sort, not officially anything money related, but they had DC United players. They had about 3 DC United players that would come down, not even practice, but that was part of the deal, was they played in the game, and it was a rehab part for them. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough for the players that were playing because those guys didn't want to get stuck in for tackles. Those guys were just getting minutes to get their lungs going. Yeah. And, again, I've run around the question, but the difference was when I got to the PDL team down in Florida, there was a lot of the guys that stayed in. It was in Cocoa Beach. It was at the Cocoa Expo Sports Center. It was a big center that club teams knew because they went and played wintertime tournaments in Florida and Cocoa Beach. So they knew the place. The weather was warm, but they had a bunch of Florida Tech players that won a national championship within the time frame that those players were playing. And you had that hometown hero. Those guys would be back 5, 6, 7, 8 guys, a nucleus, year in and year out. Yeah. So then you take that same model. I took it up the road to the Wilmington Hammerheads, which was well established. Again, you talk about ownership, but also love them or hate them, and you know who I'm talking about. Yeah. The big part of having the same head coach year in and year out, just like you, Joe, at the Carolina Dynamo in Wilmington, having a David Irving, who was an EPL player. It wasn't even EPL back then. Who knows? It was just English FA. Yeah. Professional football. Came over, played in the old NASL, played for the Fort Lauderdale Strikers. Yeah. Played with Best. Had pictures with Pele, and that was your head coach. To then again, okay, this is adding some marketability to your program. Yep. So that's, to your own question, what was the difference now getting into Wilmington? You're in a small hometown market, but you're bringing, let's be honest, you're bringing NASL, the old Cosmos, the old Fort Lauderdale Strikers. You're bringing that kind of atmosphere into a rivalry between the Carolina Dynamo and the Wilmington Hammerheads. Yep. And Charlotte and Raleigh and Richmond. I mean, we had such a great travel. It was easier on the players, right? And I think, the biggest thing is they're out. You always have to evolve. When you talk about marketing the players, we lost in the A-League final, but the year before I came, took the Dynamo over because they lost about $1 million to get to a final. Wasn't economically, Greensboro was not a AAA city. All right. So I said, we need to do this. Let's save money and go ahead and build a stadium, which we did. Played in the D3 for a couple of years and went really well. But we always would end up getting a lot of broken players drop down from MLS, right? So, and they weren't into it. They realized that their career's kind of over. They're trying to hang it on. So I said, we're going to go into the PDL. So when you talk about the whole paradigm shift was that everybody that went and watched college games in my marketplace, whether it was Wake, Duke, Chapel Hill, Elon, High Point, these were the players. I used those players. I even had some UNCW players
they were our best marketing pieces because kids had already seen them. Clubs already watched them in the fall, and having a good relationship with the college coaches to say, hey, we're going to bring them in. They're going to play for us. If anything happens to them, we're sending them back for your trainers, your medical staff. They're done with us. We didn't send them back broken. And I think most of the guys that I dealt with, they really appreciated that because the win wasn't as important. One, I was stacked. I was good, right? And we were one of very few teams in North Carolina at that time. They're all over the place now, right? Yeah. So, but we had great ownership. The players didn't have to pay to play. They came in, we treat them, we didn't leave the A-League standard, right? We just fit in the township that they belonged in. And I had 8 first-round draft picks out of one of those teams. I would have never had that if I stayed in the D3 level. We wanted players going up, if that makes sense, like a Justin Moose, right? Those kind of players, they're ballers. I mean, they're ready to go. They're finishing their time up at a Wake Forest. Shane Williams. We had Sammy Cronin. These are guys that are in MLS. I was blessed. I got to coach. I learned from these guys, right? These guys could ball. Jamie Franks was coaches in Denver now. I was blessed that I had some very, very good players. And now it's a different thing. And if you look at the marketplaces we're in, they're broken now because they didn't have the people that kept it going over time. The biggest thing that, I'm proud of is, the Battery here in Charleston has lasted. Their next challenge is how are they going to compete and deal in the business level at the next imposed demand going into Division I, right? Because now that's a game changer, right? And so, those are things that, we talk about the players that are coming out of college today. They have a lot more pathways and go to Europe and go start at a 3rd division club there and try to go up, right? But I want to make sure that me and you and the guys that we have, I want to help USL2 teams, NPSL teams, UPSL teams, which were all break-offs of the USL. I mean, all these things got created because someone got upset and they want to start their own shit, right? So everything's here. I want to help them not fail because they're internal and they just keep doing things that the mistakes that we made in 93, 94, 95, I'm watching them rewash the same laundry. And you're probably seeing the same thing.
Absolutely. I mean, and I don't want to say at the end of the day, it's just because you were a good soccer player and a good soccer coach does not make you a good soccer business person.
Or if you have an accent.
It's been a downfall. It's been a downfall of the root of everything. But I'm going to touch back on what you were saying about the youth. The beauty of the youth back in the day was, I mean, just look back at the U.S. Open Cup, the Lamar Hunt Open Cup. Man, you were dying to see how that would pan out, especially when the PDL teams right off the bat were playing USL teams. the MLS teams. Right. They hated it. Now they could use the excuse, we were playing reserve players, we were playing this, the game didn't mean anything to the guy. BS. Play the game. These guys were, hungry. And to see a PDL team beat an MLS team or an A-League team or a D3 Pro League, and then to see even an amateur team beat them was really the answer to, okay, it's the youth. These guys are hungry. They're good players. And that was the root of success, in my opinion, of soccer back then, even in the 90s, 2000, definitely 2010. I don't know really the time when the U.S. Open Cup started getting watered down by MLS teams not participating or what have you. But that was the magic in soccer.
The magic was, I was fortunate enough to win the prize money twice. We beat Seattle Sounders before they came into MLS, right? And we were fortunate enough to get two MLS games at the MLS stadium, which never happens, right? And I think that was a tribute to the players we had. I mean, my teams were already recruited by the ACC schools, the Big South schools that I had down there. I mean, it was low hanging fruit, right? You just had to give them the right environment, trust, and at the end of the day, don't mess it up. These guys are intelligent footballers. Right?
Yeah.
And so today it's a little bit different, but I'm happy where things are, except I'm not happy with when you get a franchise given to you, they don't know. And they don't give themselves enough runway to open up on opening day. They get a franchise in their city in February and they got to open up in May. No, dude, you need 18 months to build your foundation for success. But again, people have the thing where they want to fill in the schedule. So my thing is with USFT Sports, I've already helped clubs now. Now we have a business of consulting that we can help these owners. You know, I've seen owners lose their homes with these teams, right? It's ridiculous. So go ahead and try to get yourself educated before you get in. So now the last 5 minutes, which was a great conversation, we could talk all day, right? You know, you're a proud son. Your dad gave you them coaching roots, and you've watched him in collegiate sports the whole time. And that probably led you into coaching at the JUCO level and being an athletic director. And, you know, when I tell high school players or club players getting out of high school, if they're not bigger, faster, stronger, or academically not ready to go, you know, and they're very good players, I think JUCO is a great opportunity for them because they don't lose a year, but they can become young women or young men pretty quickly because they're not going to get the high standard luxuries of a Big Ten school.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and the biggest thing then too is, you know, traditionally in all college sports, most freshmen and sophomores don't see the field in any sport. I mean, right. A little bit, but there's a lot of times you're putting in all this time, you're putting in all this effort, you got all this momentum in growth, and all of a sudden, you know, you're told, okay, well, you can train, but you're not going to play in any games. You didn't make the squad.
Or you might not even make the travel team.
And a lot of these colleges, you know, build second teams to where it's not even college soccer. You're playing a really, it's glorified club. The same as, you know, you're almost better to go to a bigger university and play a club that's supported by the recreation departments to get, you know, more time. And that's, you know, that's a whole nother conversation in itself there too, on opportunity for our players to play. It's going to translate into I don't think we have time tonight to talk on why am I not excited about the World Cup this year?
Well, let's talk about it right now. We're finishing up with that. Question is, World Cup's over. It's the week after it's over. Stadiums are all messy. They're cleaning it up. Teams are going home. Trophies been given. It's all done, right? That week, that lull. So at the water cooler on Monday or Tuesday after it's all done, and our national team craps the bed, or they do successful, which to me is getting out of the group, not just winning the group, but doing something after it. How do you think the U.S. population, the soccer community, how's it going to impact us? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it boils down to, you've got to have, what are you doing? What's your structure? What's your plan? What's your message? Not saying you have to play a certain formation, you have to use this certain player, but everyone's got to be on the same page. And this is the same thing on these different leagues and these, you know, different things. You've got to have one message. Just like you hear in all the things, you've got to have, you know, when you're coaching, if you've got 6 coaches on the field yelling 6 different things, no, it's not going to work. No. You got to have one voice.
Yeah.
And until there's one voice and one direction, and it's not a money grab, it's got to come to where it's under the umbrella of the United States Soccer Federation. I'm sorry.
Yep.
You've got to have, otherwise it's just like the last 40 some years that we've been doing. Well, it's sort of good in this area. It's sort of good this. Well, we have a good team. All right. Is it ECNL? Is it MLS Next? Is it this Hispanic team that doesn't even get an opportunity to play because they don't even have uniforms and let alone play in a league, but they beat the living daylights out. Even they're U.S. citizens or not, they're living here.
And they're ballers.
And they're ballers, but they don't
ballers.
have. And then again, the inner cities, are we getting the best athletes? No, they're getting the track in to play baseball where it's not as, it's time and money in that too. Same with basketball, and they're going to play football. So it's just so spread out.
Yeah.
It's never going to come to one fruition.
Yeah.
It may,
yeah.
and then it's lucky. It's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
All of these, everything we've talked about tonight, the youth league, the professional leagues, the amateur leagues run to look professional. It's all, maybe a crapshoot. You've got but it's a lot of money. And at most of the time, a lot of the money just goes, you lose it.
There's no return on investment.
Not at all. So that's our biggest goal. I know when you approached me with this entity is let's make sure you don't lose $100,000 before you even think you're going to make $100,000.
Right. You got, slow. It's a slow drip, man. You got to build it. It's got to build me, and I'll tell stories about Neil McPherson in these podcasts where it's over, but it's a process. Yeah. It has to be a process. The U.S. society wants immediate impact right away. Everything's a process in building, right? And you build these building blocks. And that's how we'll close, because these are the kind of people that are on our team. USFTsports.org. You can go down to the bottom of our page. You can like us on Facebook. You can go to the website. You can see our bios. You can see Chris's bio, so you get to know him and the talented people we have that I know that can help your club. They can help small clubs, super clubs, pre-professional, professional clubs, scholastic athletic education. We have all the tools in our toolbox. So if you have any questions, find us. All right. And this will be probably the podcast that we'll have coming up over the next 2 or 3 weeks to be talking about the World Cup. And then we'll go in deeper into the summer. But listen, thank you so much. And brother, I'll be talking to you tomorrow, if not tonight.
Man, thank you so much for the opportunity, man. Thanks for doing this for everybody.
All right, brother. Cheers. Bye.